So it's very important once we start thinking of a project. Now, what is a project in Revit? So we have to understand from the point of view of a building information model. So I just wanted to show you something about to understand the need of a template. So for a template, you need to understand about what is a project. So I am taking a example where it will show about the need of a template and how it is important before we start up a project. So this is a Singapore BIM standard. So this is basically a guide for model coordination. Now that's cross-disciplinary. Now, so once we work in a Revit model, so it is understood that a project team will work into the coordination of the model, like the architect, the M&E, and the CNS. Now there would be a single model that will be worked by all the three stakeholders, and there will be other people who would be coming to work into it. Now, so as such, so when we start up working in a project, that is a building information modeling project, so we need to have a template that is to the common interest of all the stakeholders. That means it is a project not for architecture, it is not for the project for the structure, it is a project for an integrated model. It's a project actually executed on the site, where the model will be coordinated by all the stakeholders into the project. So it's very, then there are a lot of things, type of coordination and what are the things that will be done. So it's very important. Now you can see that the current practice is, if you go from contractual to project handover, it is BIM, 2D drawing, BIM, IFC format. IFC stands for Industry Foundation Class. So this is a neutral format where we exchange data. So it's very important. Now let us see. So there is something called workflow of design build project. Now to make it more futuristic, it is design build and operate. So it is not design build, it is design build and operate. So here it talks about what is the workflow of a design bid build project and a design build project. So let's I would be more interested towards the design bid build project. That means the bidding part is also there into the model. The traditional bid build project delivery method divides the BIM process into two models, the design model and the construction model. The consultants generate the design model and tender document. The main contractor generates the construction model for construction project. So what is the pre-tender phase? That is the pre-bid phase. Establish a BIM execution plan. Now, what is a BIM execution plan? BIM execution plan is a plan where you have to lay down the strategies that you will work in order to work in a coordinated model. So how to execute a BIM, how to take over the BIM model. So the initiation of a BIM execution plan starts with a common mandate of working, common practice of working. So the common practice of working basically establishes a common template of work. That means who is going to work what and who is going to have what rights. So if you have a common template where it satisfies the needs and necessities of different stakeholders, then it is easier to work together into the futuristic part of the model. So here the reason why I am talking about this is basically a template is basically a base from where we start the IPD. IPD stands for Integrated Project Delivery, like a BIM model, a building information model. So there are a lot of things. Create architectural and system models for design. Architecture means again the integrate design models and coordination and clash detection. So it is happening in all the done by all people who are working as stakeholders. Now talk about the BIM professional, who are the responsible. Now the point over here is who is going to create the template. That would be depending upon who is the BIM professionals. To facilitate the BIM process, it's an old standard actually. Two new professionals known as BIM manager for project and BIM coordinators for consultant and contractors have been identified in table 6. The new roles can be undertaken by existing members in the project team, such as CAD managers, project managers, consultant, contractors, etc. So you can be any of them. You can be an architect, you can be a project manager, who can be the future BIM manager. And then if you're working in a consultant or contractor part, you will be a coordinator for your own domain areas. Besides ensuring that BIM objectives are achieved, the BIM manager should also ensure that all parties work collaboratively to resolve conflict in the most efficient way. So collaboratively means to work into a single objective, work for a single objective, work into a single model where you exchange your information in a very smooth way. The role of BIM manager does not include making decisions about design, engineering and construction solution, non-organization process for each step. Now see what is the responsibilities for the new BIM role. This role can be played by the lead consultant or BIM specialist appointed. Now BIM execution plan, BIM goals and uses, responsibility matrix, BIM deliverables, BIM delivery schedules, BIM modeling quality control and BIM coordination. Now this is basically of the entire project we are talking about. And then it comes to the consultant. So the consultant will abide by the standard set by. Now here if you look into all the three things, all the three and the other three, 7 things, you find that everything would be mentioned inside the template. It has to be there in the template. Like the execution plan has to be there, how to execute, who is going to work for which views, what are the sets, what are the things. It's goals. Again, goals will set up the what is the level of detail that you're going to, how you're going to publish the drawings, how you're going to publish the sheets, everything. So if you look into this, a responsibility matrix is also a part of the template. That means the template that you're creating, the rights that would be given to whom and what would be inside the template, because there is no other document in the model that can speak regarding the BIM goals. It is only the model. You might be having hundreds and thousands of documents like this which talks about this, but actually you are working on the model. So the model should have the summary of what is laid down in the standards. So whatever you speak over here, it has to be there into the model. Model means the template. So the start of any project starts with the BIM manager role, right? So that basically, so if you have a right template, right? If you have a right template, now look into, there are other things because I wanted to tell you about the disciplines, because the template will also include the discipline in BIM. Discipline in BIMs are like architectural BIM elements, site models, includes, these are the BIM models, room spaces, walls and curtain walls, doors, windows and louvers, basic structure. Like last time when we discussed about, okay, what is the difference between a structural beam and structural column and a architectural column. So it talks about beams based on location and size indicated by structural engineer. Columns based on location and size indicated by structural engineer. Roofs with overall thickness including finishes and insulations. Ceilings without support subframes including module, so hangers and subframe. Horizontal floors. Now sloped floors and ramps. Vertical circulation. Schedules, fixture equipment with input from interior designer, subspecialist and contract. So these are the BIM elements that the architect. So here why I am telling you, because everything that you will mention in the template you will start working would be based on who is going to do what, because that is the workflow that we are going to follow. Okay. At what stage we are going to add what, and it will be based on the template that you start with. And then structural BIM elements consist of slabs, stairs, all framing members and opening, beams, columns, walls, diaphragm walls and retaining walls, blah blah, other things. Shafts and pits, precast and pre-stressed, temporary structures, steel platforms, connection details. Then comes a civil BIM element. So we talked about this DEM last time, digital elevated model. Now DTM is the digital terrain model, which is a synonym of DEM. the geology report, everything would be there inside the model. In fact, the information should be there. Then comes the MEP, which is ACMV, that is the air conditioner, mechanical and ventilation. Right. So this comes where the public and sanitary BIM elements, ACMV, air handling unit, and other things. Fire protection BIM elements, sixth, electrical BIM elements, and gas BIM elements, and there are other things. So project in, now look into this. Below is an example of basic BIM objective, and from the conceptual to the FM stage. FM is what? Facilities management. The BIM manager is column is optional. Okay, project manager indicated in the matrix, architect, so quantity surveyor. So these are the things that you should read जब आपको time मिले, whenever you get time. So these are the guidelines. So now let's talk about the guidelines. Architectural BIM modeling guidelines. So here comes at the conceptual stage, at the preliminary design, and so on. So you have to look into it. Now this is basically the quality assurance. BIM is an agreed version, includes defined stories, and so other things. Architectural model is carried out in the following stages: the design of precast, and so other things. So now the other thing that you will find that nowhere the template is mentioned, but template is everywhere. Matlab, if you start working, you have a fundamental template. So all the guidelines that has been written over here is based on the template. It's not that the architect will work on a different template. The structural engineer will be working on a different template because they would be having their own roles and responsibilities. At the same time, they will be working on a single database model. So it was important to make you understand about what exactly is the roles and responsibilities. So coming back to the word file. So here is the word file. So what is a project template? Project template is basically a single file, or it is basically a guideline that helps the stakeholders or the people to start working in the project or to work in the project. So it is a base.
It's a single base standard.
It's a standard. It's a standard that is done by after discussion, having kick-off meetings with different project managers and stakeholders. What would be the essential things that would be there while we start working in the project, and what are the things that we want to add in terms of communication, in terms of plugins, in terms of delivery, that we will have the smooth transition between the project line. So importance of project template in Revit is it basically makes you work in a coordinated and collaborative manner. You know where your work would be and how you start working in a collaborative environment. Use of a project template in Revit. Now, how the Revit project template comes. Now, if you look into the workflow of Revit, fundamentally, when we start Revit, so you find something when you do new. So you just wanted to tell you what the software thinks. Now, when you start a new project can be a template, can be a project. Creating a template can be a project. Creating the model can be a project. Because prior to starting a Revit model, you need to have a template. You cannot go by default template that you use, a matrix or something. So you have to have an understanding, basic guidelines of what is the units that we are going to do, what is the unit currencies that we are going to use, how the schedule will go, what is the color of the walls, pipes, and color coordination, how the space will be. Everything would be laid down into a form of standards that would be basically put into the template part. So template is not an overnight. Template is basically something that takes time and has to basically have more time before you start, because it will make your project life cycle reduce project life cycle. So that if you invest more on creating template, a proper template, it will definitely reduce the RFIs. It will definitely reduce the coordination issues, because everybody will be trained how to use, everybody knows where to use and how the communication. So it's said wisely कि if you have a good base, you have a good future, right? So your base should be strong. Your base means the template should be strong. It's not that default. If you use default template, you are going to create a Taj Mahal or a Burj Khalifa. It won't happen, because why you are creating a Revit model is basically you are working into a Revit model to for various reasons. The reason has been laid down, like from the facilities management point of view, the scheduling and everything. If you go with the BIM standards, everything that is has to have into a BIM environment. Done. Now, what is the main uh, benchmark? What is the main benchmark to start a template? What would be the main benchmark to start a template? Any idea? Yeah, what would be the benchmark? You're going to start a project, right? Now, if you want to going to start a project in Netherlands, and if you want to start a project in, let's say, Cuba, so are you going to use the same template? So what would be the benchmark for creating a template for Netherlands, for creating a template for, let's say, Cuba? Anything more? So the important benchmark is the guidelines, statutory guidelines from the what basically their guidelines talks, their contract is talking, their consultant talks. So that would be something like when we talk about BIM standards, it is the British standard PAS 20. I'll talk about what is the BIM standard. So initially, when NBS was started, so it was PAS 1192, right? That was the framework for BIM. So this is the standard for British standards that gave rise to National BIM standard for UK. So that was the guideline. So if you look into the PAS, what is the PAS 1192 framework? So so it talks about a series of PS documents set out the requirements for achieving level 2, which deals with construction phase and specify the requirement for. So this is the statutory guidelines. Similarly, US would be having.
What a PAS document.
So this is basically I'll tell you. Let me see the acronym for it, right? BIM definition. Okay. What does P, right? So it stands for specification information. It is a British standard institution. It's a part of BSI. I strongly, yeah. So here it is there in the wiki you will get, right. So it is the publicly available specifications. So these are for British. So you have to have a publicly available specification that is a part of British standards, right? Construction Industry Council and a lot of things. So that is very important. So once you create a template, once you start creating a template, so you have to basically go through the standards that particular country. You have to be very much. You have to go through the documents actually. See how you are going to lay down the. So so now if you look into the new project over here, why I am saying, because it is not about creating. It is Revit. If you look into it, there is two ways of looking into Revit: creating a model, creating a project. So here we are changing our discussion towards as a project rather than creating a model. Now you will see that entire definition will change how you start a project. So if you start a project, you need a template, right? So if you have a template, then you can start working on a project. So it will ask you, okay, you're going to do a new project. So are you going to create a new project, or you're going to create a new template? So for a BIM, both of them are project. So the first thing is that if you have a project template that is shared by your consultant or contractor or BIM manager, then you browse it from here and take it, and the extension is .rp. So if you look into this templates, if you download Revit, so you find that you check the country option, India, US. So they give the default template based on the local usage of language. But at the same time, when we are talking about template, so we need to understand the template is basically the guidelines of how a project will be started from scratch to execution. So here, what I would suggest is I have to create a template. Now, if I want to create a template, now I can take a basic reference of any default template from where I can start, or I can go with none. None means I'll create my own. I have to create a lot of things there. So if you feel that some of you, at least a basic of information that you can carry and create your own template, then you should browse. Now the first thing is that once you go to the guidelines and specification, then comes the language of communication. The important part is how the delivery will be made. What units the delivery will be made. Very important. Means units of measurement is not the units. It's basically, we talk bigha, katha and other thing, but in Europe and other places they have their own units. They have their own units for currencies, weight. They talk about weight in pounds or a kilo. So there are two school of thought. One is the metric and the other is the imperial thought. So the point over here is what type of thought you want to start with. So that gives the birth of the default template that you're going to start for creating your future template. So if you are going with a imperial kind of thing, so you can take an imperial template, or if you want to go with a, let's say, a metric kind of thing, so you can take a metric template. So now over here you find that what is the difference between default metric and the others. So that is, you will understand better when you understand what is a template, because without knowing this you won't understand what would be the difference between all of them. They have been created for a specific use, right? So over here we are talking about not about an architecture or a construction or a structure. We are talking about a template for BIM. We are talking a template for project. Now, so we start with, let's say, a default metric and come over here and say project template. The moment you click on it, so you find that some default kind of settings are there, like the view icons, right? These are the part of templates, symbols and other thing that is carried from the template. Okay, great. Now the point is, what is the difference between starting a project from a project template or from a project? What would be the difference if you have taken a project instead of project template? What would be the difference? So we have taken a project template. So if you look into the application menu over here, you can save the file only as a, you cannot save the file. So it's a very important function. So now you are creating a template for the project.
It means it is preparing a base for the project.
To start the project.
To start.
Whereas in a project already we have that base and we will start working on it.
So we have two types of things. One is the working on a project and working on the guidelines. So when you are working on the guidelines, that's the pre-documentation or documentation part. Template creation, family creations are a part of it. Now look into it. If you are creating a template for a project, you have to create a template for families also, because that's something that if you are manufacturing a furniture, if you are manufacturing a light, it has to abide by the guidelines of that particular country or the state or the zone. So it cannot be key. You have a Chinese kind of guidelines for electrical equipment and bought into a European country. No, it cannot be there. It should be compliant with the BIM standard of that particular area. So now, by this time we have understood about what exactly the difference between starting a project and starting a project template. Now let's save this file. So I have created a folder over here. So here is the online class. So here I will have another folder called project template, and the extension of the project template is RT. So project. Now look at if there is an option kind of thing over here. In the option, you can set the number of backups that the template can have. Let's say while creating you lose it, so the backup should be created. Not an RVT file, but with a okay. So I save this file.
So the backup means the number of times we can modify this.
No, backup means let's say you're working and you don't save the file.
You get it 20 times.
So we can auto save.
Auto save. RT file, not RVT, right? Okay. Now what do you see in this template? Now let me come back. What do you see in this template? And what is the important thing that we should do before we start? So I can see there is something a level 1 at the top. I don't know what is a level 1. I can see 4 arrows. Okay, they have their own style. I can see a left. There is a screen which shows the navigation of the. So here you can see the name of the template along with the browser. So now you have to understand in what you are going to do and how you are going to do. The first thing that you need to do is to create areas for various disciplines. Various disciplines means now you have, let's say, now you have a discipline. Now you have to understand what discipline is all about. For that, I would first of all introduce the first thing that we do in a template is to understand the browser organization. Why browser organization? Browser organization is a place where day in and day out the people meet, they interact with the model. Now here it does not shows which view or which icon should I use. So first of all I have to create a proper browser organization. How do I do? Now let's come over here. Now here you say views, all, floor plan, ceiling plan, elevation and finish. So probably we have taken an architectural template which does not talk about structure, it does not talk about anything. So let's come over here in the view, and in the user interface there is something called browser organization. And then other things I will talk about keyboard shortcuts. So these are also part of template. That means you have your own keyboard shortcuts like PE for project browser. You create it and you circulate it to your team and say, okay, fine, do it fast. WL for wall. Let's say you're AutoCAD. You're working in AutoCAD. You say, okay, fine. LI for line. So we will see how to customize it. Now coming over here, so you have a browser organization. At this stage, what is a browser organization? Browser organization is a tool that manages the project browser, how it looks. So in a project, there are 3 things that we control in a project. One is a view. View means the floor plan, the ceiling plan, the north, blah blah blah. Second is the sheets that we publish. And third is the schedules that we manage. Agree? So now you can have the browser organized for all the 3 areas. Now we are talking about views. So now if I say, okay, I want to organize the view as per the discipline. At this moment it was all. Now I say as discipline. So now you can see the moment I say discipline, the project browser talks about it as an architectural discipline, and all these views are related to architectural disciplines. Correct? So if you talk about floor plans of level 1, level 2 floor plan, saving plan for level 1, so these all are views which are for architecture. So we can have sub-disciplines also, like for interior or for architecture can have sub-disciplines, like for interior a view can be there, for let's say plumbing a view can be there, for electrical and furniture you can have different kind of sub-disciplines, but main is a architecture. So now what we do, if I want to create more disciplines in this template, I want to create more people into it. So because I have to make this project browser compatible with all the disciplines. Now let's again go to project browser and see what are the things I can do here. So it says that I can arrange the project browser by type and discipline. Now what type and discipline is? So now you have type, floor plans, all, now it will come, all the floor plans related to all the disciplines will come here. Now primary, the project browser is right. So if you have a floor plan, it is electrical floor plan, plumbing floor plan, so now by discipline it will come. Now this is another communication technique, how you communicate with your teammates. So either you go by discipline, if let's say architect basically finds comfortable, okay fine, I understand floor plan, so architecture, okay fine, now I will be using level 1, so I want to create level 1. Similarly there would be another discipline called electrical, so there will be a level 1 for electrical, the electrical people will come. So in this particular scenario, you organize the project browser based on the type of delivery, and then second is the discipline. You will understand more when we add more discipline. And then we have the other thing is that phase. Yes, that's a very important part that we will take it later on. So then we have sheets. I mean, you can arrange the sheets as per issue date, sheet prefixes, so that your project management in the browser, things are well organized and can be published cross domain. So it is the first thing that is very important is to set the browser, because that is the head, that is the brain from where you start communicating with people. Just here is basically the main access, from where you access the views, from where you access the information. So if you understand what is there in the browser, then you can start working on the project in a better way. So let's talk about, let's say, discipline. So I do a discipline kind of sorting over here. I can edit it, and that is something different, how I can edit it. Now let's say how a plan, how can you make a view which is of architectural discipline to a structural discipline? There are two ways. Number one, select the view, go to its property. So here you have the properties in the modify, and just in the view you will find that number of properties are there, and one of the property is discipline property. So the property of this view and the discipline parameter. So if you find the discipline parameter, right, it would be somewhere you have to find out. So here you have the. So now if you say it is a structural discipline, another discipline will be created for a structure. Now that view, level 1, which is the floor plan of level 1, that is the level, is now no more an architecture, it is now a structure. Right? So there will be certain things that will be visible, and there will be certain things that will not be visible, depending upon how the view. So this is one way. But the standard way of working and changing discipline is creating view templates. That means you cannot randomly select a view and say, okay fine, this is structure, this is architecture. So you should have a template that is made as per the discipline. Template for the view. I'm talking about not for the project. Now the template for the view. Template for the view. Let's say template for architectural floor plan. So what are the things I've got? Okay, fine. In architectural floor plans, this particular element will be seen in red. This particular element will be in the line weight this. So you have a control on the view. I'm not talking about the template of the project. I'm now talking about a view template. So how do you assign a view template and where it resides? Now if you look into it, so here we have in the view, and there is an option called view templates. Now obviously the view template will differ from each other in terms of discipline. That means an architectural view template will be different from an anything view template. Make sense? So it's important. So once you start working in a project browser, now you have to understand how to and what view templates I'm going to assign. And if you have not created, you have to create a view template. And that's also a job of a BIM manager. So now if you look into the view, now look into it, there are different templates available. So how do you go? You go to the view template and you say manage view templates. So discipline filter. So I say I want to see all the view template that is available over here. So the question is, can I import more view templates from a different project if it is created somewhere? Can the view template be saved? Can the view template can be exchanged? Now the answer will come over here. Now view template is an intrinsic property of a template, of a project template. Now I have two definitions, two words. One is the project template and the other is a view templates. So view template is an intrinsic, that is the internal template of a project template. So if you are starting up a project, you should have your view templates created so that you can assign it to the view that you want to designate or delegate to somebody. So what are the standards? Look into it. Now let's say if I want to create an architectural plan. So if I have to create a template for architectural plan, so here there's a template. So there's a view template. So these are the properties that I have to set for the template. What would be the scale? Right? What would be the detail level? What would be the VG overrides for model? What would be the VG overrides for annotation? Right? Shadows, model display, everything, view range, everything will come into the template. So it's every parameters is a topic to be discussed in a class. That means if I talk about only about part visibility, it is a whole topic for 3 days that can be taught for. What is the parts? So I'm not taking that particular thing. I'm just giving you an overview of a template. So now if you look into it, you have this 1:100, which is basically you cannot edit it, right? But there are certain things that you can include or so if you say click on it, so it will include and not include, right? Got it? Include means it will include in the view. This means you can change it independently into the template.
And views we can edit.
See, that's what include means. In the template, right, these parameters which are checked cannot be changed inside the view. So if there is an architectural plan template which has been assigned to several views, it will be controlled from only one template, that is an architectural plan template. What my point? So if you change a wall color red in this architectural plan, and if this template is assigned to 10 floors, that means in one place if you change the color, it will go to the template. So it's such a fast way of communicating. But my point, generally the scales are not included because scales are basically subject to how the sheets that you are going to tell. So I will not include the scales. So now you can see that there are certain things which are templates. Now, if you look into the all, so there are templates for all. Now, you don't find the electrical and MEP templates over here because this template that we are using is basically an architecture template. It talks about structure, yeah, because we have picked it up from architecture. Any questions? Right?
Once we start making these project templates and templates, so
You can change it in that.
I'm asking you, it can be a standard format for all the future projects,
It has to be a standard format.
and
So-
that can be edited, add on, and
Yes, that is the standards of industry standards. Those are industry standards. If you have a line of let's say if you're showing the different sections in a different hatch patterns, that's a standard that you're giving. RSP standards, right? You're not giving the tags, you're giving the hatch pattern. That's an RSP.
That is why we are making them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you have to have define your way, but then in the architecture template you're giving us something else, and that structure. So this will not. So this template that we are going to define is not for the RSP or for the architecture structure. It is for the entire project, the PMC or the any person who is holding the project. So here comes. So now look into it. The moment I give this as an architectural plan, so what will happen? So you find that this level 1 is set to architecture. We are going to set it, right? Apply. So this template is set over to the architecture plan. Similarly, it also should have. Now look, before applying the template and after applying the template, now some options are editable. The moment I assign a template,
not based on the template.
what my point? So some parameters you have included and some parameters you have not included. So here comes now if I want to create structure. So ceiling plan. So here the template would not be a floor plan. Ceiling plan. Because once you are going for an architectural plan, you are looking from top to bottom. But in this case, you are looking up. So template will change. So now you got the importance of a template. Now I want to create another discipline over here. So let's say I want to duplicate this. So obviously if I duplicate this, right? So it will carry the same thing. The only thing that I will change is the view template, and I will go for a. So I create another discipline because automatically in that particular view template the discipline is structure. Makes sense? So similarly what I do, I duplicate this. So I can apply template properties, or there are other options that I can do, but right now okay, and if you want to create a foundation plan, then you have to go in a different route. So now what are the things that has to be corrected when you are creating the views? Now again, these all are views, right? So now it has to have a template, right? Either it will have a section or a elevation. Now the question would be, can I assign all the views at a time to a simple template? Yes. That is automation that I talked about last time, Dynamo, using Dynamo. So when we do a quality, it is to make sure that all the views have a assigned template. No view should have, because the control goes to a single person. Unnecessarily someone cannot go and change it. The lesser the people are aligned to changes, more the control will be. Now it's easier if you want to change something, you do not have to go to a draftsman and say, okay fine, I am changing the template from the central model and it will reflect to the whole project. It's a ripple effect.
That's the good practice. What happens is when we work with other.
But it is like a read-only kind of a thing.
No, there is no file. Again, the question I raised is template is a safe. You save the file? No, it is an intrinsic part. Now look into it. Once you go to the view template over here, manage view template. Now there are three things over here, right? So you create a duplicate. So you are creating a template inside a template. You're creating a view template inside. A view template is not saved as any extension. It is a part of a template. Project template is saved as .rt. But a view template, let's say if you are creating some new view templates, it will go with your template. So you are creating this template for the template that you are creating. For example, let me create another template called electrical or mechanical. It's a template, right? So what I do over here is a very quick. So what I do, the first thing that I will do into is to change the discipline. That's what I can do first. And then what I will go do is I will go to the VG and see that the mechanical elements are switched on. They can be visible, right? And the architectural elements are switched off or whatever it is. So the template carries what will be the visibility of that particular part. Got my point? So over here. So now if I have this mechanical template and I want to create another template, so I go with it and I say okay fine, I want to duplicate it and then give this. So is it saved? Did I save it? It was a mechanical plan, so it is in the hall. Is it there? It is there. Similarly, you can create an electrical, plumbing, and so you keep on extending your browser. Now, okay, I'll just close it. This. Oh, recording why nahi? Oh, it is. Recording nahi hua. Oh, ho gaya. Okay, 47. Stop.